By 2001, flip phones reigned and Shrek was still the hottest thing on a DVD. Ford quietly put a new kind of family transporter on the map, one that looked like it wanted to be adventurous, but mostly wanted to hold a soccer goal and 3 grocery bags. This is the story of the Ford Escape, the sensible highway escape hatch that somehow became America's compact crossover. Welcome back to Auto Chatter, where facts, opinion, and speculation will be given. Comments are welcome, and likes in this new hype thing are appreciated. Now, let us begin. Ford launched the Escape for the 2001 model year as a compact SUV built on a car platform, the tidy recipe that would define the American crossover boom. They needed a compact SUV to fight the Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, and Subaru Forester, which were basically station wagons and hiking boots. The first generation Escape arrived with a choice of 4-cylinder with about 127 horsepower from a 2-liter back then, and optional V6s. It was built on a modified Mazda 626 platform, which is why in some markets your Escape's cousin looks suspiciously like a Mazda wearing a different badge. Ford owned a large chunk of the Japanese brand then, and many collaborations like this one were produced over the years because of it. But there are 2 other models to mention while I'm on the subject. Because the planet loves badge engineering, Ford sold 2 other siblings, the Mazda Tribute and later the Mercury Mariner, a slightly posher cousin introduced for the 2005 model year. The Tribute mirrored the Escape's bones until it was retired in 2011, as was the Mariner. Mazda was close to renaming the Tribute a CX-5 for the 08 model year, but they shelved that idea for now. Mazda was on a mission to switch to alphanumeric names for their lineup, and today have pretty much done that, except with the MX-5 that is still reluctantly referred to as a Miata as well by them, due to stubborn fans like myself. Mazda basically replaced the Tribute with their homegrown CX-5, and it went on to be a bestseller for them. Anyway, the Mariner lived from 2005 to 2011 as Mercury tried to convince buyers that chrome trim equals luxury. It managed to hang around for 2 generations until Mercury's funeral.
I wonder what that means. It's funny. It's spelled just like the word escape.
And now I'm going to run down the generations of the Escape. The first generation was launched for the 01 model year with car-based unibody. Proved compact crossovers, they were getting popular and becoming family staples. Ford was paying attention to the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. Early engines was a 2-liter 4 with 127 horses and later V6 option. That gave them a leg up cylinder count-wise on some of the other Japanese crossover competitors. A 5-speed manual was available, but most chose an automatic. It was actually a fairly good soft rotor, but lacking low-range gearing wouldn't be a substitute for more off-road capable machines then, like a Nissan Xterra or Jeep Cherokee, and later the Liberty. The base engine was a 2-liter Ford Z-Tech 4 with 127 ponies and 135 pounds of torque, 5-speed manual standard. The upgrade was a 3-liter Duratec V6 rated at 200 horsepower and 200 pounds of torque, 4-speed automatic standard. Drivetrain was front-wheel drive with optional all-wheel drive with a center vicious coupling. Towing was up to 3,500 pounds if you got the V6. Fuel economy for the 4s was 22 to 26 highway. V6s were about 18 to 23. The competitors at the time included the Honda CR-V, which was practical, bulletproof, but only 146 horsepower. The Toyota RAV4, which was quirky, smaller, but reliable. The Chevy Tracker and the Suzuki Vitara, technically competitors, but let's be real, nobody brags about their Tracker. Subaru Forester, all-wheel drive was standard, loved by outdoorsy types and dogs in LL Bean catalogs. By 2005, there's a mid-cycle refresh and the hybrid debuts. It was the first hybrid SUV from Ford and one of the first hybrid SUVs in the US market. It combined a gas engine with electric assist and got people talking about miles per gallon and mildly smug avoidance of gas station small talk. With gas prices climbing due to Middle East conflicts, its arrival was good timing. The hybrid had a 2.3-liter Atkinson-style inline-4 paired with a 94-horse electric motor. This gave you 155 horses combined. Transmission was an electronic CVT, automatic. The economy was 31 city and 29 highway. This was kind of big numbers for a mid-2000s SUV. Range was 400 to 450 miles per tank. Ford beat Toyota to the punch in America by launching the first hybrid SUV here before the Highlander hybrid showed up. For once, Ford was the eco-hipster.
Escape now, hug later.
The second generation arrived for the '08 model year. Sharper styling, more refinement, and the hybrid variant stuck around. Improvements to the chassis and safety too. It still rode on the previous platform, and you would be forgiven to think it was just a major refresh versus a whole new generation. Manuals were still a thing, but you were limited to basically front-wheel drive base models. The engines was a 2.3-liter inline-4 with 153 ponies, a 3-liter V6 with up to 240, later a 2.5-liter 4 with 171. The hybrid was still available, but now had an upgraded battery management system. Transmissions was 4-speed automatic earlier on, and then a 6-speed automatic later. Of course, all-wheel drive is still an option. Towing was up to 3,500 pounds with the 6-cylinder. The competitors by the late 2000s would be the Honda CR-V, which was sleeker, softer, and wildly popular. The Toyota RAV4. It now offered a 269-horse V6, which smoked the Escape's 3-liter. Chevy Equinox had a cheap interior but growing sales. The Nissan Rogue. It sold well to start and eventually overtook the Altima. Hyundai Tucson. It was gaining traction with value shoppers. The Escape was like a flip phone in the iPhone era. It worked, but the CR-V and RAV4 were already going touchscreen.
Sorry, sleepyhead. I'm trying to escape.
For the third generation, there was a redesign for the 2013 model year. Turbocharged small displacement engines started showing up. Ford leaned into tech with their sync infotainment improvements, and Escape transformed into more car-like aerodynamic shape. The platform was an all-new, and it was dubbed the C-Car platform. This was developed in Europe using Ford, Mazda, and Volvo engineers. Volvo, like Mazda, was another Ford acquisition at the time. 6-speed automatics were now standard. The 2013 base MSRP began around $23,640. Base cars had a 2.5-liter 4 with 168 ponies. Then you could get an EcoBoost 1.6-liter turbo 4 with 178. It was later replaced by a 1.5-liter. There was an EcoBoost 2-liter turbo with 240 horsepower and 270 pounds of torque. This would be the hot one. Transmission, 6-speed automatic. Fuel economy was now up to 32 miles per gallon depending on how you spec it. And now they had the My Ford Touch infotainment that was optional. All-wheel drive, of course, and max towing was still up to 3,500 pounds with the 2-liter. The competitors by then, the Honda CR-V that was still a king of sales, the RAV4, now was much larger and more mainstream, the Chevy Equinox, GMC Terrain, GM's Answer but with lots of chrome, Mazda's CX-5, which handled better than the Escape but sold less, the Nissan Rogue, now is even larger and selling great, even though it's got a CVT, the Kia Sportage and Hyundai Tucson. They are now no longer punchlines, but actual threats. This was the generation where the Escape looked like a shrunken minivan that got stretched in Photoshop. Buyers didn't care, though. Ford sold over 300,000 of them in 2016 alone. The fourth generation arrived for the 2020 model year, and it was a ground-up redesign with more hybrid and plug-in options, new EcoBoost 3-cylinders, and modern safety tech. The platform was an all-new C2-1 that was developed by Ford and would underpin several other models including the Edge, Maverick, Lincoln Nautilus, Focus, and Bronco Sport. It's actually lighter than the outgoing one and seems to resemble a tall hatchback versus a crossover. By 2020, the base MSRP was roughly $26,130. Base engine was a 1.5-liter turbo inline-3 with 181 ponies, but you could get a 2-liter 4-cylinder upgrade with 250. The hybrid was a 2.5-liter 4 with the electric, gave you 200 ponies combined. There's now a plug-in hybrid with 221 horses and 37 miles of straight EV range. Transmission, 8-speed automatic or an eCVT for the hybrids. Fuel economy up to 34 miles per gallon depending on trims and drivetrain. Towing remained around 3,500 pounds. Safety-wise, the Co-Pilot 360 driver aids was standard, which is stuff like lane keep and auto braking. The competitors included the Honda CR-V, still, Toyota RAV4, the Mazda CX-5, the Nissan Rogue, Hyundai Tucson and Kia Sportage, and the Chevy Equinox that's still here somehow. By 2020, the Escape wasn't just fighting the CR-V and RAV4 anymore. It was fighting everyone's compact SUV, and the segment was more crowded than a Costco parking lot on free sample day. As far as sales by the numbers, I've put together some selected years. For 2001, they sold about 164,184 of them. By 2008, it was around 156,544. By 2013, though, we're almost at 300,000, and by 2016, it's passing that mark. 2019, 241,000. 2020 was down to about 178,500, but you know, the pandemic did cause a bit of a dip. 2023, though, dropped further to 140,968, and last year in 2024 was about 147,000 selling. Peak years in the mid-2010s show the Escape hitting its stride as the U.S. embraced a subclass of compact crossovers, convenient, efficient, and good at being boring, which is apparently what Americans wanted. How about a little money talk? Were the ones back in '01 cheaper than what one was just a few years ago? Not really. The 2001 base MSRP was $19,975. Adjusting to 2025 bucks, that's about $36,540. By 2013, the sticker was up to $23,640, but that's about $32,860 today. So that's actually quite a bit of a drop, and the standard equipment list went up a lot. By 2020, the base sticker was now $26,130, and the price-wise, as far as 2025 numbers, it's still about $32,000. So it's really gone down. The Escape wasn't the flashiest car on the block. It never had a supercar cameo in a blockbuster movie I'm aware of, but it was everywhere. It was a reliable second car, family haulers, grocery getters, and occasionally the vehicle you used to drive awkwardly into a college move-in day. It reflected how Americans wanted cars to behave: safe, comfortable, efficient-ish, and not too dramatic. In short, the perfect on-screen sidekick for suburban life. Unfortunately, its more car-like demure was rejected by many in favor of its brawnier-looking cousin that also used its platform, the Bronco Sport. Ford has made the decision that there wasn't a need to market both, so the Escape will depart after 2025. But it's not really going away because of it. I mean, the original Escape had more of a real SUV style too, in my opinion. So did we just end up going full circle, but now it has a cooler name? Anyway, this has been my Escape chatter, and I do hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if so, please. Until next time, I'll be keeping the headlights on for you, and chatter out.